between knowing something, and we did this, I think, the first day of class, where I told you I only know like 3 things, right? Knowing and believing. So keep that tension in your mind. And this is really what's going to mark the difference between medieval presuppositions and modern. So when we start modern philosophy, the hallmark of modern philosophy comes from Rene Descartes, and he posits we have to start with radical doubt. And what he means by this is don't take anything as a presupposition. Question everything. Now, the 16th century, the church is still very powerful. It's the Protestant Reformation's taken place and all that, but in certain parts of Europe, especially southern Mediterranean Europe, the Catholic Church is very strong and powerful. In fact, Descartes was brought up and raised by Jesuits. And I won't go into who the Jesuits were so much right now, but they were a very powerful faction or sect of the Roman Catholic Church. And so when he rolled out his philosophy, he starts trying to explain to his Jesuit friends and teachers what he's doing. Besides, he probably doesn't want to get lit up, like literally lit up. So he begins by saying, let's start by just assuming we don't know anything for certain. And let's see what things we can actually know without any shadow of doubt that have to be true. And so he begins that epistemological list of how do we know things. And we talked about, we know things through our senses. Well, what's wrong with that? Our senses deceive us. We know things through our reason. What's wrong with that? Well, sometimes we think incorrectly. Descartes, however, was a mathematician, and he had great hope that math might be the key, kind of like the Pythagoreans from the ancient period. Because he realized he doesn't even know if he's dreaming or awake. Like right now in this classroom, are you sure you're in this classroom with me? Or is it 3 o'clock in the morning and you're still laying in your bed and you're so excited about having class with Blackburn today that you're already dreaming about what we're going to talk about?
For sure the second one.
Me too. I don't know, man. Sometimes when I'm teaching so much, I dream I'm in my classes. But for all I know, I'm sitting in some nursing home off Magnolia and El Cajon, medicated out of my mind, drooling on my shirt, thinking I'm lecturing to my class like I was 20 years ago. And I'm just reliving this thing over and over in my head. And I'm just having a great time. And the nurses come by and say, oh yeah, that's that crazy philosopher guy. We got to keep him double sedated because he starts talking funny. So he starts with this idea of, I don't even know if I'm dreaming or awake, but whether I'm dreaming or awake, 1 + 1 still equals 2. Woohoo! So maybe math is the way out. But then he has a horrible thought. What if there's like this evil, powerful genius that every time I count, 1, 2, 5. So in my head, even though I'm holding up 3 fingers, this evil genius is making it 5 in my head. And so even my mathematical equations are getting messed with. They're getting tweaked. And this is where he has his moment of brilliance. And he realizes whether I'm dreaming or awake, whether I'm thinking clearly or unclearly, whether I'm being deceived or being told the truth to, there is a me. There is a thinker. And I just love this. That is one thing. As long as you're even raising the question, do I exist? You exist. Because there's a you questioning your existence.
I think, therefore I know.
I think, therefore I am. Yes, that's his beautiful little Latin, cogito, ergo, sum. I think, therefore I am. Now, you could almost give a shout out to St. Augustine all the way back to the 4th century on this one, because when he was confronting the skeptics, and remember the skeptics were quite clever, their little motto was, we don't believe in anything, including the proposition we don't believe in anything. Because you have to add that, otherwise you believe that you don't believe in anything, which is one thing. Anyways. He basically is using the same sort of argument. Even if I'm being deceived or in doubt, there is a doubter. There is someone who has been deceived. Therefore I exist. And so then he starts to think about, if I am existing, what kind of things can I know? And he starts to think about, have I always existed, or did I begin to exist at a certain point in time? And he doesn't have an eternal recollection of always existing, so he believes he had to exist. And then he has to ask himself, was I self-caused, or was I caused by another? You see how he's going right back to those pillars from the medieval period. And he starts going through them, and he realizes, I did not cause myself, therefore I must have been caused by another. So now he's got not only existence, but a beginning. He has a creator, and now he's thinking, wow, if I was created by this powerful being, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have created me for my senses to be deceived. At least that couldn't have been corrected by reason. So now he's got his reason back, and math, and God and all the holy angels, and he's just so happy. So he's used reason, starting with doubting everything, to reconstructing based on self-existence, working his way all the way back up to God. So almost the Aristotelian model, where you're beginning with self or the physical world, and then you're arguing up to these more abstract concept ideas. All right, any questions on that? All right, so I do want you to remember Descartes is the father of modern philosophy, and the shift comes from age of faith to an age of radical doubt. That's what marks the modern era.